Live, going live, and we are live. Hello. Sorry I sound terrible. I promise you, I feel as bad as I sound. Now, today I want to cover something because I had a conversation earlier this week, and I didn't think much of it. I've actually come in here have to talk about this concept before, the idea of perception and perspective when it's related to value, really pricing. And I don't know how many episodes, live episodes this was ago, maybe 50, uh, 30. I have no idea. This is literally like the 130 something live show. But this conversation, I didn't think much of it until the next day. Someone else brought it up in a different conversation entirely and kind of went through the same script almost. And I thought, okay, I think there's value here to make sure that we're checking in on this one. It it's not necessarily a soapbox item, but it is definitely something that we need to remind ourselves, or at least I need to remind myself of once in a while, right? Excuse me. So, and the idea of having, a process or a fee, something that you charge for. I have a service. Hi, my name is Wayne Pelletier. I make websites. I've been doing it for 30 years at resonantpixel.co. We've been around for 6 years, and I came up as a designer, art director, creative director at agencies before starting this company 6 years ago. And it is both the most difficult and most rewarding thing I've ever done professionally. And pricing is always hard. There's never a time when it's not hard, at least not that I've seen. Even if there's clarity around it, there's still gonna be anxiety around the value, that you provide in the perception and or the deliverable, and the idea of someone thinking, "Well, I can't charge that because my clients won't pay that," I think is sometimes a bit of a misperception, I wanna say, and I wanna come at this gently, and tell me if you feel differently, but I think that if you have a $50,000 project, right? Um, and that places a certain amount of pressure on you. It it might be you might be applying the wrong pressure, right? Because what's a lot of money to you might be a rounding error to the person paying the $50,000, right? Because they don't have the same resources. They might have a bigger company, they might have more resources and assets available for this, or they might be projecting the long-term value of this as an investment and not seeing it as a massive expense. You have no idea, right? So it's hard to not place value on oneself. This often surfaces when the discussion of like what's your hourly rate comes up, and that's always a difficult one, especially for freelancers and people who run small agencies, because it's like one third of the story. It doesn't bring in factor of speed, how quick you are to get something done. Like maybe the hourly rate doesn't even matter, and it's easy to feel like the risk is high if the number is too high because we associate our self worth far too often with the prices that we're putting forward or the level of investment required to get a certain thing done. And the feeling, I think, stems from the idea that we're the only ones with something at stake here. Like we're taking on all the risk. But oftentimes, the client or customer or the partner has a lot at risk, a lot at stake as well, because you know, if hiring you doesn't work, they may have a lot of crow to eat internally. They hired you for a reason, and if it doesn't work out, they're back to ground zero. They lost all that time and probably a bunch of the money that they invested. And there's often consequences in delays or internal politics at any company. So That's why I mostly only like deal with business owners. You'll find this challenge is more common when you're dealing with someone that doesn't have the authority to approve budgetarily the thing that they're engaging with you to accomplish. If it's someone who's a manager or a director, oftentimes they may not have the discretion with the budget to just get things done. Sometimes they do, sometimes, but usually they don't. When you're dealing with a VP or someone in the C suite, they often do, not always, but often do. And then when you're dealing with the owner, you pretty much always are dealing with a person who has the authority to make the deal and to get the things done. And don't discount the idea of having a highly leveraged offer and a repeatable process, um, because it's different than having a services fee, and it scales to help more people. And when you help more people, the this balances the load type of thing. When you think about the pressure being applied to you when you out your rate, right? When you say, okay, I'm going to send this proposal off, and you hit send, and then you get them on the phone or you're talking to somebody and they're like, talk to me about these rates, or whoa, that's too high. And like the context isn't always there. And oftentimes, once you have a certain number of clients, whether it's one, five, 10 clients, whatever it is, they represent a large percentage of your total income. So when you choose to have fewer engagements, their leverage that you have is reduced dramatically, because the loss of that project or a poor outcome or anything like that will create pressure to not forfeit or have challenged a certain amount of high percentage of your total you know revenue for a short period of time. And I'm struggling with this because I feel like crap, but by having more clients in a leveraged offer. And what I mean by leveraged offer, let me explain that real quickly, is like I offer a subscription. It's a like a membership, and my clients are actually members, and they subscribe, and then we're off to the races. We make the whole website and set them up for future success. Um, but when I lose a client, I'm only losing like maybe 1 to 2% of total monthly recurring revenue. So the forfeiture isn't huge, and the stress around that churn isn't as high as if, say, you had three clients, each of them paying you $10,000 for that project over the course of a few months, and one of them loses, the project doesn't happen, or it fails halfway through. Maybe you only get 5,000. That's a large percentage. If you were to lose that client, or they not renew and they were on the hook for a third of your revenue for a period of time, that's a massive chunk. So what I mean by leverage is like the stress to maintain that is just kind of different. And I see you. Excuse me. And I totally understand. So anyway, I wanted to come in here and talk about that value perception and perspective, because I think it's too much to place it on ourselves. It's too much for you to place on yourself. And whether you charge $5,000 for a project or $50,000 for a project, it's on us, it's on you, it's on me, right? To explain that value and to deliver that value. So, how much you charge, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it doesn't really matter, because it really is just changing who you're talking to. You're really positioning with pricing. So, if you feel like my clients wouldn't pay that, then they're not the right clients. We've got to level up. And that means leveling up the value perception of the deliverable, the actual deliverable, and how we provide that deliverable. And that's another video. I'll make note of that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I will probably feel much better next week and maybe even be more articulate. I appreciate you sticking with me, though. I hope you have a great weekend and a great week. And I will see you next week right here, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live on YouTube. Awesome.